PHARRCAST episode 26.
Luis Bazan with the Pharr International Bridge joining us this morning. Now, Luis, Super Bowl is in the horizon and avocados are going to play a huge role in this game. Talk to me about the connection and the relationship between these two and how all of this ties back to the Pharr International Bridge.
Sure thing. So thank you for having me again, Yuri. It's a pleasure to be here as always. So the avocado plays a huge role, not just for the Pharr International Bridge, but for the city of Pharr, for the region, for the state. I mean, this is a product, a premium product, as they call it, green gold, el aguacate, el oro verde, right? That's grown in Mexico, and it can only be shipped to the United States. You know, I have some new data that I wanted to share with you. That this just came across yesterday. So in the last 20 years, the avocado consumption in the U.S. has increased by 260%.
Wow.
While every other product that's produce-based or anything has only grown by about 10%. So that's a huge number for us. So obviously that represents more growth, represents more crossings. It just represents a lot more volume coming to the United States because people eat avocados pretty much every day.
Now, we do want to make an emphasis that although the avocado is a product that obviously comes in through the Pharr International Bridge, tons of it, as you just mentioned, and we'll get into the numbers in just a minute, but we also want to elaborate that this is not only an avocado crossing bridge, it's all types of produce, berries, strawberries, all types of berries actually in the berry category, and just elaborate on some of the produce.
It's important to note that because, I mean, there's a lot of news out there, a lot of news outlets, a lot of information that's flowing around that we're just a produce bridge. And I've mentioned this before, and I wanted to emphasize it even more today, that we're not just the produce bridge. Yes, produce is big for us. We have the start of the produce season event to kick off, you know, that season in October. It tails off March, April or so. But we're crossing many other different types of industries, the automotive industry, technology industry, also oil and gas industry, medical industry. These are huge through Pharr, billions and billions of dollars crossed both in import and export through this bridge. But yes, since we're concentrating on avocados, it's important to talk obviously why we're here. The Super Bowl is coming up, and why is it so important that we continue to move this product across?
Right. And so what month do you start seeing that spike in crossings, during Super Bowl season?
Sure. So we start seeing it in December, but January is the month that really increases the volume. I mean, right now we're seeing a big increase. We're seeing up to 80 to 100 million truckloads of avocado coming in weekly. These are pounds of avocados, 80 to 100 million pounds of avocado coming in weekly leading up to Super Bowl weekend.
So on average, when it's not a Super Bowl season, what are those numbers like?
You're looking at about 30 to 40 million.
Okay, so huge difference.
It's more than double.
Spike. And so what is the biggest impact when we talk about these crossings, not only here in our community, but the bigger picture?
Sure. So look, I always like to think that we're all a part of the supply-demand chain, right? We are demanding a product because we're consumers. We consume these products. We eat these products. But transportation, finances, you name it, insurance companies, all the other industries that are involved. So this is job creation. It increases the capacity of production during this month. So it increases jobs. It increases jobs locally and internationally. So more importantly, again, what does that do? It allows cities like Pharr to continue to grow and prosper.
Avocado. Do you like avocado?
I like avocado. Yeah, I didn't like avocado. I think I've told the story many times before. I never was an avocado eater until I started working for the Pharr International Bridge.
I love avocados too. So, this is definitely an item that we have during gatherings and reunions during the Super Bowl. And elaborate on how this plays a huge impact in the restaurant industry.
Sure. So it's a cultural thing, right? I mean, more importantly, and I think we've broken those boundaries as a culture, right? Because we've spread this culture to everybody else, to the entire population, if you will. Who doesn't enjoy, as I've mentioned before, a good guacamole, right?
El guacamole, qué rico.
For the carnes asadas, especially on Super Bowl weekend. So, I think more importantly, we need to understand how valuable this product is,
Are you completely taking a detour here with my questions, but are you a football fan?
You know what? I used to be a bigger football fan in the past. I'm not so much anymore. To be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't have a favorite team. If that's what you're asking, I don't have a favorite team.
I was going there, not necessarily who you were favoring for the Super Bowl, but just in general, if you were a sports guy.
So just put it this way: I'm not favoring the Chiefs.
Okay, back to the avocado questions. Back to the avocado questions. So yeah, Luis, it's a busy season, obviously, with the Pharr International Bridge, and you guys are closely monitoring this type of crossings and other crossings, of course. But what's the bigger message during this season for your stakeholders, for your partners, for people in the commercial industry?
So I think the most important thing, the biggest takeaway right now during this time of year, we're starting the year, new presidency, both U.S. and Mexico practically, the reinstilling of the USMCA, the free trade agreement that we have with Mexico and Canada, that's going to be forthcoming next year. They're going to be looking at it this year, reviewing it to make adequate changes, is that don't think of it as uncertainties. Think about it as opportunities. These are things that we have to consider as we move forward. Trade is not going away. Pharr Bridge is not going away. We're building a second span, a bridge expansion. We're building a lot of new infrastructure. Today we have a meeting in Mexico to ensure that we meet right in the middle with their construction and our construction. So obviously we're going to keep pushing the envelope when it comes to trade, right? We just have to keep our ears peeled. We just have to come together, work collectively with all the different organizations across all industries, work with our city leadership, work with our city to ensure that we're not left out of the conversation. We cannot be left out of the conversations, not at this level of the game, not with this importance of a bridge. So again, let's look at these as opportunities. We have to be optimistic. We have to think about the past and how that's paved the way to where we are now. Think about COVID and where we are now after COVID. We've grown. I've talked about this before too. If you look at our numbers, just backtracking from 2001 to 2024, we had a compound annual growth rate of 21%. Just on imports alone, on imports alone, that was a 7% jump in the last 4 years. So what does that tell you? Growth is coming. So we have to keep an optimistic mind and ensure that we're at the table discussing the matters at hand so that we can continue prospering.
Right. And I think COVID was a game changer and just a way to reinvent ourselves in so many ways, not only professionally, corporate, even the Pharr Bridge, just trying to, as I always like to say this, we pivot and adjust, right?
Correct.
So I'm sure this is going to be continuous now with, I don't want to get too political here, but with changes that might be happening through current administration, right?
Absolutely.
So your team is ready to tackle and just continue monitoring any changes?
We're constantly monitoring changes. We're constantly monitoring trends. There's been a shift in trade since COVID. So every year there's something different. Something else grows while something else doesn't. The transportation industry is still not out of the hole. There's a lot of major transportation companies that went under in the last couple of years alone. So we just have to keep an eye out. We have to continue to dialogue, continue to be part of those conversations with those major industries. What are their pinch points? What's keeping them up at night? What can we do by way of the associations, the voices of all those industries, to ensure that we're taking care of business, right, at the end of the day? It's
a village to make sure everybody wins at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Luis, anything else you want to add to this quick interview? I know that the big conversation is, right now, we just really wanted to reemphasize what our bridge offers, the services that are offered, and just kind of remind people that Avocado is coming in through our Pharr International Bridge during this Super Bowl season.
Well, I think at the end of the day, look at South Pharr. Look at what's happening in South Pharr right now. Lots of new development, more industry, more warehousing, just a lot more services that are being offered in South Pharr. And why is this happening? Because we're building a second span. We're building the bridge expansion, as I mentioned. We're so excited. By the end of this year, 2025, we will have the second span of the Pharr International Bridge. That'll give us 100% added capacity. That'll increase the flow. That'll increase the truck throughput, as they call it, to ensure that traffic doesn't get stuck on the bridge. We're building a bridge not to act as a parking lot. We're building a bridge to act specifically as a bridge to get across and get out in time more efficiently.
Awesome. And you know what that means? Bridge expansion, more avocados.
Más
All right.
aguacates.
Thank you so much, Luis.
Thank you.
Vas a tener que regresar. Es mucha información. Thank you. It's always awesome having you here in our PHARRCAST. For those watching, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. A lot of content coming your way. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you.